Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our public council meeting, City of Mount Pearl, April 5th, 2022. You see before you council an agenda, and I note there is nothing outside the kit tonight. So welcome, everybody. And I'll accept a motion now from Councillor Fry, second by Councillor Lane, that we adopt the agenda before you. All in favor? Aye. Contraminded and carried. Thank you. We begin today's public council meeting by respectfully acknowledging the province of Newfoundland and Labrador as the ancestral homelands of many diverse populations of Indigenous peoples, including the Biotech, who have contributed to 9,000 years of history on the island of Newfoundland. Today, this province is home to diverse populations of Indigenous and other people. We acknowledge, with respect to the diverse histories and cultures, we acknowledge the Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit. We honor this beautiful land together as we strive for collective healing and true reconciliation. Council, you see before you the minutes from March 22nd. Just looking for any errors or omissions before we adopt those minutes. On the motion of Councillor Locke and second by Councillor Antle, they have moved that we accept the minutes. All in favor? And that motion, those opposed? Motion carried. Business arising, please quote the item number either on the action report or the minutes. Okay, hearing none, we're going to move right along to the next item in the agenda. Ms. Mullins, thank you very much. Good job again, as always, doing those minutes. And as we navigate down, I'm going to find, I believe, eventually, it was a long meeting, wasn't it? I'm looking for a proclamation, Green Shirt Day. Green Shirt Day, by the way, is April 7th, 2022. And whereas the devastating events of the Humboldt Broncos bus crash that took the lives of 16 passengers, Humboldt Broncos defenseman Logan Boulay succumbed to his injuries April 7th. And whereas Logan's parents, Bernadine and Toby Boulay, offered to donate his organs so that lives could live on. Whereas Logan had registered as an organ donor after being inspired by his coach and mentor, Rick Saget, who was also an organ donor and saved 6 lives when he passed in 2017. Whereas this new spread of the organ donation by this young hockey player, it is estimated that almost 150,000 people registered to become organ donors in the days and weeks that followed. To date, this is the largest number of Canadians registering to become organ donors in Canadian history due to one event. Whereas Green Shirt Day was created to honor, remember, and recognize all the victims and families of the fatal crash, and to continue Logan's legacy by inspiring all Canadians to talk to their families and, more importantly, register as organ donors. Therefore, I, the Mayor of Mount Pearl, on behalf of my colleagues on council, do hereby proclaim April 7th, 2022 as Green Shirt Day here in the city of Mount Pearl. And we encourage all citizens to wear green, register the decision to become organ and tissue donors, and share the decision with their family. It indeed was a very sad day, that crash. Council, any comments, any questions related to that incident or that and related to Green Shirt Day? Yes, please. Councillor Fry.
I just want to speak to the importance of organ donation. Actually, I think this is awesome that that this proclamation is here, because there are too many people waiting for organs and not enough people are donating. And it's nothing to donate an organ, but like this one here saved 6 lives, you know. So I am an organ donor and proud of it. And I think it's wonderful to see proclamations such as this bringing this important message to the forefront. Very important. Thank you.
I fully agree. Well said. Yeah. Anybody else? All right, Councillor, we're going to start with the Infrastructure and Public Works Committee report. Councillor Fry again.
Back to me. Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, first on the Infrastructure and Public Works agenda for this evening is about the Smart Accessible Playground. And this is for a change order. So just to give some background, this change order has been prompted by the city as a client requested change order. It was initiated as a result of consultation with external stakeholders regarding the the accessible features in the smart accessible playground design. So we had looked to members of the public to provide input on this, and we did get some feedback. It was identified that increasing the color contrast between the structures and the rubberized surface would increase safety to ensure that persons with visual disabilities or impairments can see the structure elements such as the steps and structure, entrances, etc. So staff worked with the consultant to identify the least expensive option to effectively improve the contrast and maximize safety. Changing the colors of the structures, if done prior to ordering, would be at no extra materials cost, and there would be a consultant change order to Tract for $862.50 HST included. So in the interest of timing, on February the 18th, the Director of Infrastructure and Public Works and the CAO agreed to authorize the equipment color change and the consultant change order for Tract for the $862.50. Now, this matter was discussed at Committee of the Whole meeting of March the 22nd, and the committee supported this expense and overall approach. So therefore, the committee recommends ratification approval of the self-authorization for Tract Consultant Change Order number 2, contract change notice number 5 for $862.50 HST included. And Tract is confirming with Modern Paving that revised contractor change notice number 5 is a zero cost and zero delay playground equipment change. Tract and Modern are to advise engineering service once this is confirmed. So while this project is over budget, considering the low cost of this change order, the construction risk budget can be adjusted to absorb this expense and preserve the precious projection amount to council. Sorry, previous projection amount to council. And I so move.
Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Fry and seconded, of course, by, thank you, Councillor Rice. Any thoughts, questions? Not every day we get to discuss only $862 and a net zero effect on a contract. Good stuff. Deputy Mayor Kiley, please.
I just wanted to speak to the benefits of the order and the impact it will have. I think it's incredible that anytime we can make it an opportunity to make something more accessible, and that we're listening to our consultants and our community groups around that, is a great thing. And it just, I'm always reminded by a very well-known disability inclusion sentence of "nothing about us without us." So I think it was pretty responsive and responsible of us to take on the change and also take on the additional costs, because of ultimately the impact and point of this is to be an accessible and playable inclusion. So I think it's great.
Anybody else? I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you. Motion carried.
Okay, next on our agenda is fence repairs to St. David's Park. So back in 2016, as part of the redevelopment plan, a fence was installed around St. David's Park. Now, this fence is now in a bit of disrepair, sagging in places, and 2 sections require replacement. Staff reviewed the matter and determined that the 5-year warranty on the fence has expired. The fence was initially installed as part of the St. David's Park redevelopment by Provincial Fence Products via a general contractor, Redwood Construction. Provincial Fence Products have provided a quote for the repair work required to remove the sections of fence in order to repair the brackets, to regrade the posts, etc., in the amount of $10,190.15 HST included. Now, this is just for the repair work itself. This matter was discussed by the Committee of the Whole on March 22nd, and the committee supported this approach. The recommendation from the committee is to approval for the required repairs to St. David's Park fence to be carried out by Provincial Fence Products for the amount of $10,190.15 HST included, with the work to be carried out in the spring of 2022. As this is an unanticipated and unbudgeted expense, funding is not available within the budget for fencing repairs. However, available funding has been identified within a capital reserve budget for 2022. And Your Worship, I understand that the parts for this have been provided at no charge, and this is just for the cost of labor.
Wow, good thing I'd say. Hey? And it is moved by Counselor Fry and again seconded by Counselor Rice. Counselor Antle.
Your worship, I'm glad to see this coming through to get our fence fixed, but I'm not glad to see it coming through, to be honest. I mean, the fence is 5 years old and here we are repairing our fence. Now, I noticed that last year, a resident called me last year and he asked me to come up and said, take a look at our fence. And when we went by, we happened to see all the little clips were breaking. I mean, when you build a fence, you think you're going to get 20 years out of a fence. I mean, the posts may stay, but the clips, I was kind of surprised. I'm kind of disappointed that we're having to fix this after 5 years. And it's great to see that they're supplying the parts at no charge, right? But it's like the real thing, as soon as the warranty is over, something breaks. So I'm certainly happy that we're getting it done, and let's get it done to get our fence back again. But I'm kind of disappointed we're doing it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Question or thought for Counselor Fry? All right, I'm going to call the question again. All in favor? Contraminded? Carried. Thank you.
Next on our agenda is another change order. And this one is for the Glendale Avenue project. And it's with Dexter Construction. And this is to do with temporary connections between work zones. So just to give you some background, on November the 5th of 2019, Dexter Construction submitted a request for change order number 15 for temporary connections between work zones. There have been ongoing discussions regarding the details of this change order, and the matter was discussed at Committee of the Whole meeting on March the 22nd, 2022. So the recommendation of the committee is that the Glendale Avenue project change order, CO number 15, for labor and materials for the installation of temporary connections, and this is of underground and above ground water, sanitary, and storm connections between the designated 5 predetermined construction work zones be approved for the amount of $40,250, HST included, and I so move.
Again, moved by Counselor Fry and seconded by Counselor Rice. The money's getting higher, the more motions we do. Any questions, council? I'd like to ask Engineering Services Manager Smith, or Mr. Smith, what is the essential reason here? Did this because of the length of time it took to take finish the contract?
So that was, I guess, a part of it. It spanned over 2 construction seasons. But also, I guess, some of the contract language had to be reviewed in depth, I guess, to confirm what should be in and what should be out of the change order request. So there was some time to review that, but that was the basis, I guess, of the change order request, the fact that it had to be completed and the crossover, I guess, the temporary connections had to be put forth into the following year.
Any other questions, folks? Thank you very much, by the way. I'll call the question. All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague because I know he's really excited about the next item.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. Appreciate that very much. So number 4 on our agenda for IPW is the utility terrain UTI and groomer attachment. The request for approval to purchase. Excuse me. Just a little, I guess, a little background. This one is when this came to, I guess, to committee of the whole and came forward to public. The request is for approval for the purchase of the groomer. Council has previously approved the purchase of the UTI, which was delayed last fall, and now it's supposed to be here this spring to this summer. And the report includes an update that the UTI is due to be delivered, like I said, now sometime this summer or sometime late summer. Going back to the UTV pulls the groomer, and if it's the intent is to have 2 units and the ability to groom different areas or different trailways in the city of Mount Pearl. So they require the purchase of additional groomer along with the purchase of the UTI, which we already had purchased. At Public Council on October the 12th, we approved the purchase of the UTI from the supplier with the lowest bid of Kubota of $38,642.43, HST included. And the cost for the equipment could be accommodated within the 2021 fleet budget. Staff was authorized to proceed with the purchase. Delivery this, like I said, was this summer. Recommendation from IPW, committee recommends that the purchase of a trail groomer unit from the shop industrial as the only trail groomer unit that could be suited to the city's needs and specifications. And I might add that this new trail groomer will be able to due to our bridges and our walkways that goes around Powerspan, from what I've been told by Director Antle, which is very, very good news. And the price of this one will be $12,477.50, HST included, as of December 2020, December 22nd, 2021, as a sole source purchase and the result of a non-compliant product or non-responsive from other bidders, with funding available within the 2022 fleet budget, funding budget. And I so move, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Rice, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Locke. And just to be clear, the UTV was already approved. This is just the groomer unit. Any questions?
I'd like to
Councillor
comment
Antle had his hand up
Oh, I'm
first.
sorry,
Yeah, no
go
worries.
ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No,
Sorry, Councillor Antle.
I'm sure we're going to talk. First off is that I'd like people to know that Councillor Rice works at St. Pat's Mercy Home. So he kept on referring to UTI. So I thought
Trail
it was-
groomer it is.
So
Oh,
I
did
thought
I?
it was pretty, so
UTV, sorry.
your background comes through every time, so
It
it was a good, it was funny. I think Councillor
good.
Fry had to leave.
To the motion, please.
Yeah, it was good.
I
So
was going to
Anything
say,
else,
I'm
Councillor?
glad-
No, I'm just,
I'm sorry.
UTV.
I'm just going to talk about how happy I am we're going to purchase this unit. I mean, our trails are fabulous. The residents are talking about this, how much we see it. I mean, we never had much snow this year, but when we did, the groomers were out, and now we're even going to do better and better again. And that's it for me, Councillor Locke.
Councillor Locke, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I was excited about this because we've gotten such positive feedback from our groom trails, but the nature of the first groomer that we purchased, we were limited to a certain section of the city. This one is my understanding, we could take the UTV with the groomer from our depot and drive right into the trail systems. But this first one was too wide to traverse our bridges.
Hmm.
So that limited us to a certain area of the city. Otherwise, we would have to load it on a trailer and then bring it to other areas of the city, which of course was cost prohibitive. This one, as Councillor Rice said, is going to allow us to cross the bridges, which will expand the areas that we can groom. So this is great news because you'll have more areas now. And I'm not wishing for more snow than we had this year, Your Worship. But in the event we return to a normal winter, this piece of equipment will allow us to further increase the opportunities for our residents to do some outdoor winter activities. So I fully support this. Thank you.
For the thoughts, Deputy Mayor Kylie, please.
It also, because I know we're focusing on certainly the winter season, I believe that there's also dual use for this throughout the entire year. I'm wondering if we could have maybe a little bit of explanation of that as well, because I think it's fantastic that certainly is going to make great use for the trails, but also all year round, how it can support some of the paths and that sort of thing.
UTV itself, not the
Yeah,
groomer.
you're talking about the UTV?
Yes.
Okay, because this is
This is
for
for
the
the
groomer
groomer.
Groomer itself, yeah.
itself. The groomer is an attachment that goes on the UTV.
Oh,
to groom the trails, right? But you're absolutely right about the UTV. It's used in the summertime for collecting garbage and accessing things. I mean, it's so handy. It can go anywhere. And of course, it saves on fuel costs. There's all kinds of,
We take the tracks off, don't we?
yeah, there's all kinds of benefits of having this. It's very
Fantastic.
handy.
I'm going to call the motion. All in favor? And those opposed? Motion carried. New groomer coming up.
Thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Number 5 is recommendation for cost equation. Emergency of our tops of the road right now, we have an emergency situation where we have to do an emergency storm sewer repair. Recommendation for contract award CPR 22031. The scope of the work it was developed to complete emergency storm sewer repair on Tops Road. This work includes a removal and replacement of approximately 48 meters of CMP storm sewer pipe and installing new 120 or 1200 millimeter diameter HDPE storm sewer pipe. The work will be also included with all related work such as excavation and backfill, patching and landscape, removal of temporary patch and reinforcement of asphalt, concrete, curb and gutter. The cost quotation for emergency storm repairs, Tops of Road closed on March the 16th, 2022, and 3 quotations were received. The quotations were received and checked for conformance. Provision 2 of the following criteria is outlined in the quotation form. The department recommends approval of the lowest qualified quote by Fairweather Investment Limited in the amount of $147,000. $918.75. This matter was discussed at the committee of the whole meeting, and the committee supports the department recommendation. The infrastructure report, the Infrastructure and Public Works Committee recommends that approval be granted and awarded to the emergency storm sewer repairs, Topsail Road, to the lowest bidder in the amount of $147,918.75. And the Infrastructure and Public Works Committee further recommends the approval to be granted for the CAO to submit a capital investment plan for the gas tax capital investment application to the gas tax secretarial for gas tax funding, the amount of, as quoted, $147,918.75 for this project. And I so move.
It is moved by Counselor Rice, seconded by Counselor Fry. So there's two pieces to this. We've decided the funding is going to come from the gas tax, so there's an application process. I see Director Pittman nodding her head, good. And we're also now putting a place in contract in place with Fairview Investments. I see Manager Smith nodding his head on great stuff, guys. Any comments, folks? Any concerns? I mean, it is what it is when it comes to the word emergency here is actually really more coming out of the Public Tender Act, but it is very urgent that we get this done before any further damage is done to our roadway or any neighboring infrastructure. So I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed and carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. Number 6 is for information purposes only. So reporting on public works. In addition to winter and other regular activities, staff are working on pothole repairs and repairs to bridges and boardwalks on the trails. Facility management report, routine facility maintenance and continuous improvements ongoing. Summit Leisure Pool and Splash Pad are reopened on March the 12th. Projects that are ongoing now are Powers Pond Patrol, building year-round use of washroom ongoing. Summit Phase Loss Protection is being quoted, and Glacier Phase Loss Protection awaiting information from equipment manufacturer. On the capital work project side, update, smart accessible playground equipment received and is stored at the depot right now. So waiting, I guess, on the weather to get better and work to start up sometime this spring. Pedestrian underpass starting up in this June. Park Avenue and bridge repair starting this spring when the weather clears, and ISIP 2020 and multi-year capital work projects at various stages of being finalized, underway, or working pending this coming spring and into this fall. And I might add that our engineering department has been quite busy the last couple of months planning and putting everything forward for capital year multi-work projects. And I want to commend them actually how much work they've been putting into this over the last couple of months. And from our IPW meeting, it certainly it shows how much work they've been doing on the conversation we've had with them. So, and that's my report, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rice. On behalf of the Infrastructure and Public Works Committee, we're going to move now to Community Development. Councillor Lane, please.
Sorry, Your Worship, you didn't.
I apologize. Go
That's no
ahead,
worries.
Councillor
I just
Luck.
wanted to, a couple of points there
Please.
on Councillor Rice's status reports. First, I'd like to commend like all the trail work and the boardwalks. We walked the Branscombs Pond Trail, and I mean, quite a large number of the planks have been replaced and pressure treated. And I guess we're a little ahead of the game this year, given the opportunity with the weather. We were able to, instead of having to focus on snow clearing, snow removal, it allowed us to be ahead of the game. So they've done a great job on maintaining that. So that's great news, great to see. I just wanted to, if I could get some further information on the Powers Pond Patrol or Park Patrol building. I'm not familiar where that is. Is that up by Powers Pond? Is it an existing building? Is it a new construction? Is it?
It's there where the boat, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Director. Thank you.
It is there where the boat house is. And previously, because maintenance staff have been looking to winterize it year round, and Park Patrol would move in there in the summertime. And recent years with COVID, they've been working out of our buildings here. So it's going back to where they were. So they're up around the boathouse area as well.
Okay, so the boathouse areas, that's where the Park Patrol will be stationed.
Correct.
And are we expecting the year-round use for the washroom for this upcoming winter?
Correct.
Like next winter? That should all be in place. So
Correct.
people, okay, that's great news. Good to hear. Okay, thank you, Your Worship.
Good.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Thank you, everybody. Councillor Lane, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the first thing that we have on the community development agenda for tonight is the spring 2022 session registrations. So it's just for the information of the public. So the registration date for the Mount Pearl Seniors Independence Group fitness programs. That opened up to Mount Pearl residents on Thursday, April 12th at 1 p.m. And then it's open to other residents on Thursday, April 14th at 1 p.m. And for the general fitness programs, that opened for Mount Pearl residents on Tuesday, April 12th at 5 p.m. And then it's open on Thursday, April 14th at 5 p.m. And the second thing here on our agenda is the Fitness Center Preventative Maintenance Program. So the committee recommends approval to award the preventative maintenance program delivered and designed to include a comprehensive inspection, cleaning, and lubrication of all fitness equipment at the Summit Center to Spartan Fitness. Due to the limited availability of fitness equipment, service providers locally, one bid only was received, and it was from Spartan Fitness, which would be $43,200 for the total bid, $14,400 as the annual cost, and $110 hourly. The service provided on a regular scheduled quarterly basis for a 3-year period, with the option to be extended by 1 year, provided both parties agree to all the terms and conditions as outlined in the specifications. And I so move.
It is moved by Counselor Lane and seconded by Counselor Antle. Counselor Locke, please.
Yeah, just a question, your worship. I know we increasingly are seeing these sold bids coming forth here. And I just got a question for Director Collins, based on past contracts of similar nature, are you satisfied that this is a good bang for the buck? I mean, I know we don't have a lot of, like you said, expertise in the area to provide this, but how do you feel about this level of cost for this service? Is it comparable to years past?
It is, it's a several $100s per year extra. It's very minimal.
Mhm.
It's not much extra and seemed very reasonable when it was reviewed.
Okay. Because again, we were seeing more of this and we're not having competitive bids. It makes us wonder if,
Good question.
I think I
Absolutely.
asked Director Antle last week, if we do any comparative analysis, say to other jurisdictions to see if this is within range, but if it's comparable to what we paid for, I'm satisfied.
In
with
this case, it was only several $100s per year.
Okay, all right, thank you, Your
Did I
worship.
see your hand, Counselor Antle? No, sorry. I have a question and I'm just curious. This works out to be about 3 hours every week, right? If you run the numbers in the contract, 14,000. Could our staff be doing this?
Our staff do some,
Mhm.
but not the more technical pieces of this work. So staff are there and work alongside the experts and certainly do things in between, but it's not a regular, the time is not kind of in regular intervals. If you worked it out, it would be 3 hours per week, but it's come to a changeover and work on the equipment and that kind
But
of
that's
thing. So
because they want to come in, I guess, and run a whole day's worth of work, right? Typically. Whereas if you had all the equipment and you had the staff on hand to do it, you could do it 2 and 3 hours at a time. That's probably driven more by the folks like Spartan. I mean, they don't want to come in for an hour. It's probably not worth their while. Wouldn't you agree?
Not in all cases. In some cases, the job may take more than a couple of hours.
Mhm.
It
Because-
depends on the piece of equipment.
Because I know our fitness staff up there, they know this equipment like the back of their
Absolutely.
hands,
And
and
anything
there
they
are
can do,
peaks
they
and
do.
valleys in the operation up at the fitness center. And I just wonder, to Deputy Mayor Locke's point, there's not many companies out here doing this. Have we stopped for a second and I'm by no means going to hold up this contract, but have we asked ourselves, could our staff be doing this from time to time and get the same result over the year, but use existing capacity within the workforce?
If I could answer it this way, over the years, our staff have been doing more because we've been consciously looking at this, but we still feel that the experts are best to handle some of the tasks that are required, certainly in regards to the preventative maintenance.
Thank you, Councillor Rice.
Yes, I noticed, so I was reading through there and I noticed that it's the cleaning and lubrication of all the fitness equipment. So everything that we deem, so does this include everything up there? Like every piece of equipment at the Summit Center?
Essentially everything with moving parts.
Every moving parts, okay. All right, thank you.
So all the weights, the bikes, the
Toys, treadmills,
treadmills.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Councillor Antle.
Just a quick note, because we talked about this at great depth in our committee meeting. And one of the things, Blair Delaney, I think he's the manager there. And he was saying, this is adding life to all of our equipment, that our staff wouldn't do I mean, they do a great job, but this Spartan, they know what they're doing. And it's, like he said, it's just adding so many more miles to these pieces of equipment. For the money that we're spending, it's saving us money in the long run because we get more and more use out of these machines. And these maintenance guys know what they're doing.
I'm arguing how you do it as opposed to what you
Yeah.
do. The
They know
goal,
what they're
the
doing,
goal
right?
would still be the same, right? Okay, anybody else before I call the question? I'll call the question. All in favor? And those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, the third item we have here tonight is 31 Yetman Drive, Spruce Cottage Designs and Decor. So they're applying for home-based business. The committee recommends that the application submitted by Spruce Cottage Designs and Decor to operate a home occupation at 31 Yetman Drive be approved and that a development permit be issued subject to sections 7.18 of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010, subject to the applicable conditions as outlined by the following. So Service NL Environmental Health, St. John's Regional Fire Department, City of Mount Pearl Inspection Services Municipal Enforcement Division, City of Mount Pearl Finance Division, City of Mount Pearl Planning Division, and City of Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010 and related requirements. A notice of the application was posted to the city's website and was published in the Telegram on Saturday, February 26, 2022. Notice was also circulated to 98 property owners, including the Member of Parliament, MHAs, Chamber of Commerce, within the 150-meter radius of the proposed development via Canada Post on Wednesday, February 23, 2022. The 2 written responses received were reviewed by council and staff. So I think it's very important to note when it comes to home-based businesses, if they do receive a permit, it is conditional. And if it's being proved that this business is causing excessive noise or excessive traffic on a street, this permit can be revoked. This is not, something that we take lightly. We did do our research on this before considering this permit. And of course, we did get 2 responses on that as well. But I always encourage any residents, if a home-based business is applying to operate, to give us their feedback, because we take that very seriously. I think it's also important to note that the piece of equipment that would be used in this home-based business, to own this piece of equipment, you actually don't require a permit. Anybody could have one in their home. What they're applying for is a permit to use this piece of equipment in a home-based business. But anybody could own this piece of equipment themselves if they do wish.
And use for their own internal
Absolutely.
enjoyment, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Mm.
So I do agree with the committee and I so move.
It is moved by Counselor Lane and second by Counselor Antle. I'd like to just ask you, Counselor, the nature of the 2 written responses that were received by council. Were they negative towards the proposal?
Yes, so these were residents who were not supportive of the home-based business being opened. And I think that Councillor Antle would like to speak more on that.
Counselor Antle.
Your
Counselor
worship,
Antle is going to speak in opposition to the motion.
I certainly appreciate the motion. Certainly before I start, I'd like to clarify that I do support home-based businesses. And I always have and I always will be. But a home-based business should operate in a business that it doesn't impact the residents next door or in the area. Don't impact their peace and quiet. I was contacted and I did contact the residents. And one of the things I did talk about is that this came through our committee on February the 26th, for public hearing. We had 2 letters, and these 2 letters, even though there was 98 people sent out on that street, these 2 people were directly impacted by this. So they contacted me and they were quite upset about a business operating. Their opinion was, and they do like home-based businesses also, they have no issues, but the home-based business should stay inside the home. And one of the things they said, stay inside the home. They were major concerned about toxic exhaust and fumes. We don't know if there's any toxic exhaust or fumes. That's one of those things that we have to wait and check. Machine, I checked the specs on the machines. It seems to be okay, but they were worried about the noise and smells. The other residents said the same thing, noise, fumes, and debris. And ensure this can be purchased by a anybody at all to use in your own home and this kind of stuff. But the permit asks, it's required that he starts at 10 o'clock in the morning and lasts till 8 o'clock in the evening, 7 days a week. That's what the permit states. 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week, this machine will be running. It also requests that there's an exhaust fan that goes outside the building. And this exhaust fan, I don't know where the exhaust fan will be, but it goes outside. I checked with our Department of Municipal Enforcement, and I asked, did we have a nuisance bylaw? Even if you didn't need a permit for this, if you ran this machine 8 hours a day in your backyard, 7 days a week, is that clear? Does that work to be a nuisance? In our bylaws, it's gray, it's a gray area, but there is, you can't run a machine 8 to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is a gray area. No resident doesn't have to put up that amount of noise. And that's one thing that's going to run 8 hours a day. They have no issue if it stays inside the home. And also, I'm just going through here, and on one of our bylaws, it states, it's a 7-18-8, and says activities associated with the use are not hazardous and do not cause noticeable increase in traffic, which we don't think so. We check that. Noise, odor, dust, or fumes. Right? We don't know that. My suggestion was, and I understand what Councillor Lane said, is that sometimes we have a discretionary permit that, if you don't do it after 6 months, but I think it should be written into the permit. 6 months, if there's no issues, we'll continue on. Otherwise, I can't support this. I can't support this permit going forward if it's just wide open. But if we can put a 6-month window onto this, I think it's a good permit. But otherwise, Your Worship, I can't support it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from, because part of the piece that's missing, not really missing in the report, but I want to make sure it comes out. You articulated well the residents' concerns. I'd like to ask the department, perhaps through the director, what was the analysis of staff when it came to, I get the intensification issue of the use of the machine as a hobby versus a business, the noise and the smell. Would you mind commenting on that, Director Collins?
Through Your Worship, what specifically would you like me to answer, or just?
The department's analysis of the issues with noise and smell.
Okay. So in regards to, I guess, this home-based business, when staff reviewed it, and it was sent out for commentary to environmental health, regional fire, inspections, finance, planning, etc. It was deemed it was a very minimal impact in the neighborhood. It's as Councillor Lane has referenced, that it's a machine any resident could purchase. You would not need a permit and could operate it in their home. In this case, the person applied for a home-based business permit, again, allowing them to operate. And in any permit the city grants or awards, that there's conditions of that permit, which include, and as was referenced here, is subject to section 7.18, which Councillor Antle has referenced. And in that, the home occupation use shall be subject to the following conditions. And as he referenced, there is under 7.18.8, a very almost an all-encompassing, that activities associated with the use area that are not hazardous and do not cause a noticeable increase in traffic, noise, odor, dust, or fumes, and are not apparent to occupants of nearby residences. So if at any point council feels that it's contrary to this, council can revoke a permit. When staff reviewed this, when you're looking at a temporary permit versus issuing a permit and revoking one, the intent of a temporary permit is more a defined period of time. So for instance, if Benjamin Circus is here and they're here for a week, here's a temporary permit for a week. Generally, it's not a trial permit, if I could phrase it that way. But council always has the right to revoke a permit if a business or if a permit is in contravention of. If that answers your question.
But more practically, we'd probably issue a cease and desist order, because when you revoke a permit, you revoke all of the approval. But if there's only one issue, say it's the operation of the machine, and I know that's the central issue, you'd probably issue a cease and desist order until the issue of odor and noise is fixed. It results in the same thing. It's just depending which action you take down the road. Like you wouldn't revoke a development permit for a house because the person next door was making too much noise after 11:30.
Right.
You'd issue an order to deal with the problem. You wouldn't revoke the entire permitted use, and you expected it would be, you expect that anybody will abide by the permissions. And sometimes there's more than just one permission. Any other comments, folks? Yes, Councillor Fry, thanks.
I certainly take the residents' concerns into consideration. I mean, our residents are a priority, but it's also important to have home-based business and commerce and economic development in our city. There are a lot of reasons, good reasons for home-based business, especially, during COVID. I mean, COVID has showed us that we can all work from home. So it's a great opportunity for residents to bring in some extra income, and especially for women with small kids, who don't have to worry about childcare or can set their own schedule. There's so many reasons, and I can go on. My point here, Director Collins, I'm just wondering, I know we had a hearing set up, and although we received 2 complaints, they didn't want to come to the hearing, right? I'm wondering if the perception that they have may be more than what the reality is. I know that they're concerned about fumes and noise, and I would be too, if I was in the neighborhood. But is it that much of a concern, or is it a smaller, my understanding is a small piece of equipment. Is it really going to be that loud and have that many fumes? And is it going to be operated in the backyard? That was the first I heard about it tonight. So that's another concern.
Based on the assessment of staff and their research, and when they reached out, and again, based on conditions by environmental health, they had no concerns, fire had no concerns. This is a very small machine. It is my understanding is it's a laser engraver, like a wood engraver. So if you think of like a router, it would be very similar. So this machine does not have to be vented. This person, because it's more of a business now than a hobby, has chosen to vent it and go through whatever they can to preserve the peace and tranquility of the neighborhood. So in staff's assessment, it doesn't seem to be a very intrusive machine for sure.
And if it is, we can shut it down.
Absolutely.
And they plan on using it indoors or in their backyard, or both?
Indoors was my understanding.
That was my understanding as
Me too.
well,
Mm.
especially given the weather.
Good point. Deputy Mayor Kiley, please.
Thank you. Councillor Fry, your question had addressed one of my issues, which was just specifics around the machine itself and the impact and where staff had really identified that. So I appreciate that. The second part is in relation to the permit itself. And what it sounds to me, and I just want to make sure we're clear on that, is that the bylaws in which Councillor Antler had identified with regards to quiet, peaceful enjoyment, that they are still in force, and they still would come into play in any way in which it's deemed this permit or this particular business is in somehow is somehow not able to apply to basically to apply to those. So in the event of, with this permit, and say, for instance, down the road, it is identified that there is something that unforeseen, whether it is disturbing the quiet, peaceful enjoyment, or there's an environmental issue, that these bylaws will come into effect, and inevitably we could revoke the permit, or as Mayor Eager has mentioned, can also just do a cease and desist. So we still have those powers by issuing a permit. These bylaws are still in effect. Is that correct?
Correct. If any of the conditions of the permit are not met, council has the right to revoke, and depending on the situation, put a cease and desist order. And all our home-based business permits would reference 7.18, which, as I meant, which we've read out, and there's a noticeable difference is the phrase.
Okay, and I think that's an important point to identify, that by in any way in which we are identifying a permit and supporting home-based businesses, ultimately similar to the benefits that Councillor Fry and certainly, that our colleagues have supported home-based businesses, that it's not necessarily something in which a permit can be addressed and not then outside of the rules and regulations and bylaws that are there. And I think that's really important to identify that even moving forward with this, that still those mechanisms are in place and those protections are in place.
Thank you. We're going to move this, start to move this along now, folks. So Councillor Rice, please.
Thank you, Worship. Very quickly from me. I, as well as the Mayor and all rest council do, it's really important for residents, to hear their concerns. That's what we're here for, to listen to the residents and respect their wishes and stuff like that. But I had to say, regarding all avenues are covered here under section 7.18 and, environmental health, fire department was in. So I mean, all this already looked after and done. So I'm all about supporting home-based businesses. So, and pertaining to what, regulations and stuff, I mean, we have regulations there and there are going to be inspections done. And if there's concerns coming back sometime within a month or 2 months, it would be revisited. So that's all I have to say, Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Locke, and then Councillor Lane, I'm going to leave it to you to summarize if you wish, and then we'll call the motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't repeat everything. I'm going to support the motion. I take all Councillor Antle's points here. The residents made concerns, but I'm satisfied that their concerns can be mitigated and protected through our regulations. If they violate the conditions of the permit, we have the authority to cease and desist or revoke the permit. So I'm in favor to proceed with this. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lane. Take us to the motion, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I think what my colleagues are summing up here is while we always take residents' concerns very seriously, in this case, all avenues are covered. And if this does cause issues in the future, then us as council can make the decision to do a cease and desist. So given that, I so move that this permit be approved.
Motion's on the floor. All in favor? Those opposed? Councillor Antle. Thank you very much. Notice of motion.
And I'll take over this one. And this is home-based businesses. Thank you. Now, number 4, notice of motion. This is amendment for a home-based business. In accordance with section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act 1990 C-16, take notice that in accordance with the council's public notification policy, I will at a regular meeting of council move an amendment to the Mount Pearl Regulations, Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010, that if enacted will 1, section 2, definitions add massage therapy use with definition, in section 2 definitions add home occupation clinic use with definition, under subsection 7-18-1 add home occupation clinic use, remove section 7-18-2, under subsection 7-18-5 remove the wording reference to the floor area, under subsection 7-19-5 the wording reference to floor area. In section 11, use zone schedules 11.1 to 11.19 residential, add home occupation to the list of discretionary uses. In section 11, I use zone schedules 11.10 to 11.15 commercial, add home occupation clinic to the permitted uses. The purpose of this whole amendment is to provide council with the authority to consider, like we did last one, personal use and home occupation clinic use as a form of home occupation in residential use zones, as well as commercial, mixed, commercial general space, and commercial neighborhood use zones. And I don't need no motion.
It's only read.
Just next week, we'll do the motion.
Your Worship, can I speak not to this specifically, because the motion is coming in.
You can't speak to it specifically. You're right. You can speak generally, I guess, but not to the motion, because you're going to bring a motion in down the road.
I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering here, so I won't speak to this specific motion here,
Okay.
but something to what my colleague Councillor Fry indicated in her commentary with respect to COVID, and there seems to be a change in attitude towards people working from home. I'm wondering if we should, while we're doing this particular piece of investigation and we're going to debate this particular notice of motion here, should we expand the umbrella to look at other things that currently aren't permitted within our bylaws, such as barbershops, such as hair salons, because again, some of the rationale that was put forth. So, and again, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to do it, or we wait until the motion is brought in, because I'm not debating this specific motion that's here, the notice of motion.
I think what you're saying is there's change in the air.
Yes.
That change is not coming tonight.
No, I understand, but should we, and perhaps when we get under our plan review that we have in the hopper right now, maybe that's where we address my concerns, so.
This is driven, I believe, by a request, but the council's directive was to review the municipal plan in 2022. And by doing that, you would then pick up any new uses. Director Collins, we haven't updated the uses in 10 plus years. So it needs to be modernized in terms of what services are offered out in the public, but not to interpret that by passing a motion down the road. That doesn't mean what we're doing here is we're establishing an authority and a process. We're not necessarily saying we're approving this on a case by case basis. That'll be subject to the public consultation and the discretionary use of council. Is that correct?
If I may answer it this way, in number 4, where it says remove section 7.18.2, section 7.18.2, the use shall not include a barber, hairdresser, beauty salon, or salon spa. So it would be removing that this not be included. So therefore, including.
Now we're wading pretty close into the guts of it, which is coming in a
Understood. That's
subsequent
why.
council meeting.
I'm just wondering now.
Oh, I'd never want anybody to feel they couldn't speak, but it just, there was a time and a place. No, I know you weren't. Yeah. Deputy Mayor Kylie. Yeah.
Another
meetings.
additional point, now that we're looking at this, and we're talking about this motion in general, is the value of a gender-based analysis to our work when we're looking at economic development in home-based businesses. And especially, in the realms of COVID, and knowing that traditionally when we are looking at home-based businesses, there's definitely a gender-based analysis to look at. Who's to benefit, why there's a push and pull sometimes when it comes to those requiring a more of a work-life balance, the flexibility, childcare, all those in terms of around that. And that's just something I think of a value when we look at any work we're doing around visiting, tweaking, or amending our work around economic development in the city. So I just want to make that point as well.
Development permit listing, Councillor Randall,
Thank you.
please.
All good comments. Development permit list from March 21st to April the 1st. And you can see them in the kit there. There is 4 there, and I so move. And then you look underneath the building and occupancy permit list for the same time frame, March 21st to April the 1st, totals for $115,000. You can see them there in your kit, and I so move.
Councillor Randall has moved both the building and occupancy permits as well as the development permits, yes? For March 21 to April 1st? Yes?
Yep.
And moved by Councillor Randall, second by Councillor Lane. All in favor? Counterminded? Carried. Now, I'm searching for the bottom. I know there's one more committee left. Corporate Services and Economic Development. Councillor Locke, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll take the first of our 3, and then I'll turn it over to Deputy Mayor Kiley to finish up our report. I'll take the invoices for approval, Your Worship, and our committee is recommending, we have 5 invoices here, and we're recommending approval of these payments. So just to highlight some of them, see number 1 is the Masterless Men, $5,750. That was for the event we had in the Team Gushue parking lot down there for St. Patrick's Day. It was a great, greatly received, and many people expressed interest that perhaps we do another one in the summertime when the weather is, now it was a nice day, but it wasn't a toasty warm day. So there was a lot of satisfaction, a lot of happy, a lot of dancing. So it was great to see there. What else we have? We're the second one here. We got some legal professional fees, and this, of course, for the interest of our residents and my council colleagues, this is in relation to the appeals by the 2 former councillors whose seats were vacated. So given that that's still before the courts, there's not much we can say about that, but just to give the heads up that that's what that particular invoice pertains to. And the other ones there you can see for lighting design, which will be a great improvement up at the Summit Center parking lot. The book King billing, for our booking of our programs, and of course our Transportation Commission and our transit fees of 94,000. So in total, you can see there, your worship, we're recommending that we proceed and pay these invoices, and the total is $135,881.37, and I so move.
It is moved by Councillor Locke, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kiley. Questions, folks? Further? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary-minded? Carried.
Thank you, sir. I'll turn it over to the deputy.
Thank you, Councillor Locke. So that brings us to our payment register. And again, this is just as a point of consideration or review. The payment period totals are $327,527.77 for this period. And just to note a few of those payments that might be of interest, there are 6 payments made to North Atlantic for our fueling station for both the regular and diesel fuel for our depot. And that totals $61,446.42. And just FYI, the city had budgeted about $170,000 for fuel this year, and we've spent about 37% of that budget year to date as of March. There's also just 2 payments there made to Security Solutions that totals $3,090.05, which includes the glacier prior to the relaxing of the provincial guidelines and security for the tailgate party. So, and in relation to that, those are just some key points, and just for your purview, if there's any questions, certainly I welcome them. And if no questions, then we can move on to our final item for corporate services this evening, which is the request for tax consideration. And the committee recommends the approval of the exempt 2021 business taxes in accordance with the policy for charitable and nonprofit organizations to the following. So many good organizations that are operating and offering services in our city. So as you see them listed there, we have everything from Skills Canada, Newfoundland Labrador Employers Council, Columbus Center, St. John's Ambulance, Cooperating Housing Channel, Diabetes Association, Masonic Park, Mason Lodge, Masonic Park, Freeman's Hall, the SPCA, Metro Business Opportunities, Campa Gymnastics, and Heart and Stroke Foundation. Like I said, many great organizations, and of course, they fall under our regulations when it comes to tax exemptions.
It is moved by Deputy Mayor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Locke. I have a question if nobody else does.
Mhm.
The city owns the Campia building at 21 Old Center Road. As owners of the city, we have no business tax to waive. Is that correct? I'm just curious. Like we don't waive the Mount Pearl Soccer Association or the Pearl Gate Drax. I'm just curious why it's on here. We own the building. No, it's better to include it than exclude it, but have they submitted a request for tax? Yeah, but if we own the building, we wouldn't need to waive the business taxes. We wouldn't charge it in the first place because we don't tax ourselves, so to speak. And we don't tax soccer or minor hockey and all the other people that occupy. I'm just seeking the technical clarification. That's all, Director.
I'm just bringing it, sorry. It
Yeah,
just
no worries.
froze for a second.
And I'm happy to take it away for another time if that works.
Yeah, it might be best to take it away. All these are done on an annual basis and submitted annually. So this is just a reoccurring submission. So I'll have to look into it more closely to see if there's any prior, to see what we did last year.
Yeah,
That's
my
what I
question,
need to do.
my
Yeah.
question, I'm not, it's not about the motion. It's just, we have several organizations that lease city-owned facilities. They operate them. Track and field, men's softball, soccer, and Campia come to mind. So I just curious why we would list that one. And I'm just wondering, is there any need, I guess, where we own the building, right? That's all. Yep.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, like from a technical perspective, I'm not sure if we need to list it, but I know that we would have recorded it last year. So I'm just not sure if it never
Hmm.
hit the public.
Yeah, okay. We can clarify that maybe
Gotcha.
through
Yeah, I'll
committee and a
clarify that.
report back to committee of the whole is fine. I'll call a question. All in favor? Those opposed, and those considerations are granted. Thank you. Roundtable now for discussion. We are going to start tonight with Councillor Antle, please.
Perfect. I can get talk again for another 20 minutes. I'd only be nice and quick tonight. First off, and I
Councillor
recommend,
Rice, please.
I spoke to our committee earlier on yesterday. I attended BOMA yesterday or last week, myself and the mayor. And BOMA is the Building Owners and Managers Association. It's a great meeting to go to, and I think we should all, if we can, councillors and CAO and directors should attend this meeting. It gives us an outlook from the real estate profession's outlook, what they think is going to happen in 1 year. And it's, I should listen to them, you talk to them, and I'm going to get the presentation and send it all out to everybody because it's too long and this kind of things, right? But some of the outlooks they talked about, like the retail residential sales are after peak, and then it's going to get worse. So not peaking, I'm sorry, it's going to get there's not enough inventory anymore. And they talked about reasons why. One of the things they talked about was that it's 30 years ago since we had the fish moratorium. I never even thought about that. But all these guys moved away 30 years ago, and now they're moving back home. The ability to work from home that we just talked about. I mean, that's things that's bringing people home more and more and more. Industrial buildings are going to, Kenmount Park is going to go wild. People are looking for more industrial parks. If Beta North comes forward. But anyhow, BOMA was a good meeting to attend. I won't go on all the what they talked about, but we should all attend next year. It was a good thing to go through. And also, one more thing for me, and because I put it on Facebook and I had so many comments on it, we as a council decided, or we went to a new company this week, Neutron Scooters.
Oh.
And, it was only a company that's thinking about bringing a business here to Mount Pearl until it comes further. But it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of eye-opening experiences, but I must say Councillor Fry is not the best bike rider we ever had. So
I thought she scoots like she plays basketball. Really
Yeah.
good.
It was hilarious. But anyhow, that's all I had to do. It was a good week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rice, please. And I note that Councillor Fry is coming up.
Should be getting back at you. Just a few things from me, Your Worship. And I'm sure a lot of stuff is going to be repeated over the next 4 or 5 councillors. I want to say, first of all, big congratulations to O'Donnell boys high school team. They won the 4A basketball this past Saturday coming up. Big accomplishment from that. As part of school sport, actually. So a big accomplishment there for OD. Also on our website, there's applications can be received up till April the 8th for summer employment in the city. So if any student is looking for summer employment here in the city, now is the time to get your application in online. The deadline is April the 8th.
That's this Friday.
This Friday coming, yeah. And also coming up this spring, be mindful of our bulk garbage collection coming up in the next couple of months. And there's different times and different dates for different zones. That is posted on our website. And also there is a pamphlet that goes out in the mail every year to all the residents of Mount Pearl saying what zones, and they're all color coded. So very mindful of that coming up, because right now, be mindful that you can request the $25. For $25, you can request at any time to pick up bulk garbage, but we're down to 1 bulk garbage instead of 2 for the year. And also, I want to say a big congratulations to all the athletes from Mount Pearl that went this past Sunday to Vancouver. There's 34 athletes in Newfoundland Labrador for the soccer. They went over there for 1 week of training with the Vancouver Whitecaps. That would be a phenomenal experience for all those kids that are gone over there. And that ran from April the 4th, and I think they come back on the 9th or the 10th, they're coming back. And also to add, I guess to reply to Councillor Antle's comment there a few minutes ago, when you're talking about UTIs and UTVs, and when I work in healthcare, and I'm hearing clinical all the time of UTIs of the residents in the homes. There's no children repeated in public council, so and referring to the UTV was very important. But that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir, very much. Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I just have a couple of things. So congratulations to the Mount Pearl figure skater Aurora Walsh on her silver medal performance at the provincials. Congratulations to the St. Peter's Junior High Grade 8 girls volleyball team on their silver medal at the Sports NL Regional Championship. And also congratulations to the St. Peter's Junior High Grade 7A boys who are the 2022 Newfoundland Basketball Association champions. So congratulations to them.
It's that time of the year. All the winter stuff is wrapping up.
Absolutely.
And COVID is actually allowing us now, not so much COVID, I guess, but our restrictions are being modified so that we can do some of these year end or season ending, the culmination of good hard work by a lot of our youth in our community. Councillor Fry. Now.
Shall I start with the scooter?
Pardon the pun, but what a segue.
Just for clarification, the funniest thing about that picture wasn't my face. It was Councillor Locke coming behind me with his arms open to catch me when I fell. Always got my back. No, that was really interesting, and what's even more interesting is the feedback from residents on your post and the interest that it's gauging. I don't know if I would be using it, but I can see how it would be a benefit to a lot of people. Just a couple of things for me, Your Worship. I'm really excited that Easter is coming. And while I'm disappointed that we won't be doing an Easter Bunny tour, I am happy to see that the Breakfast with the Easter Bunny is back. So that is on Saturday, April the 16th at 7:30 in the morning. And did I read somewhere that it's sold out, Director Collins?
Absolutely, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful to see people, and it's going to be nice to see people get out and enjoy once again. And also, speaking of youth, I want to bring forward and just remind people that the deadline is coming up for the Focus on Youth Awards. And this is a big deal, especially for the youth in our city. And we have tremendous youth. We always have. Our schools have excelled in a lot of our youth. And, I encourage people to take the time and nominate, because for them, it matters, to celebrate our young people. And also, especially at that age, trying to build a resume. To have something like that on the resume goes a long way. So to take the time, and if you know a youth that deserves an award, take the time to nominate. And the details for that are available on our website, of course. And also just wanted to remind residents that the parking ban has been lifted, so you can park on the street once again, which is a sign of spring.
And can I offer a comment in that regard? I think there's a clarification that you're so right. And people think we're in the clear, but if we get a snowstorm, it goes back on, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a heads up, you still have to get off the street. I think Director Collins, it's for during the snow event and 12 hours thereafter.
Correct.
But we're not going to have any more snow.
I love the thinking.
Yes. I also just want to give a shout out to the hackathon. We had it was a wonderful organized event, and I just wanted to give thanks and congratulations to our economic development and corporate services team, because it was well organized, it was well attended. Some of the presentations were brilliant. I just thought it was an overall wonderful event, and the trivia was fun. It was all about Mount Pearl, so I knew actually all of the answers, but I couldn't win. That's my kind of trivia. No, it was a really great event, all jokes aside, and thank you for doing that. It was awesome. And that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Locke.
Thank you, Your Worship. Brief for me. First, I want to send out condolences to the Kiriban family. Young Brad Kiriban was the gentleman who was killed in that collision on Pitts Memorial this past weekend. I knew of Brad many years ago in my coaching career. So I just want to extend condolences to Brad's family. It's just a tragedy. But to end on some good notes, I do want to acknowledge the hackathon. I tip my hat to, again, all staff involved. Great ideas, super exciting. Also, I just want to say go Team Gushu. They're doing a great job down in Las Vegas. So just let them know that Brad's home city is behind them all the way. Thank you, Your Worship.
No feat to go undefeated, is it? Deputy Mayor Kiley, please.
Thanks, folks, and agreeing with all my colleagues of the great things and acknowledgements and all those things that we've heard already. I just want to quickly talk about the annual general meeting that I had attended with the Association for the Arts in Mount Pearl this past Sunday, and just with my colleague, Councillor Lane, and other members of the community. And it was just a great opportunity to acknowledge just the amount of work an association is doing to promote art, and whether it's artists, whether it's artwork, or ways in which to engage families and individuals on how what a wonderful conduit has been. And just to know how they were able to pivot during a really difficult time of COVID and be able to offer online work, to be able to really move into a virtual way to offer supports is just incredible. But I did want to focus on just letting the residents know and the public know just some things that they're putting out right now. So one thing is they're doing a focus on inclusion and accessibility around Association for the Arts. So if there's any way in which you're interested in having some feedback on that, I know they're open and wanting to put that there. But also there's a lot of volunteer opportunities that are out there. They're looking for members to be a part of their brainstorming committee, and other planning committees that are there. But also if you yourself have an idea of doing an event, an activity, they're looking for ways in which you can engage. So they're, again, working in an environment where we're moving past COVID. So they're looking at more opportunities that they can be held at in events in person, but also looking at ways that they could do hybrid. So if, the AGM itself was hybrid, where you had people who could attend in person or online. So yeah, I just wanted to, again, give some great gratitude and thanks to the association for putting off a great AGM, for identifying all the good work that's being done through the association, and also just for our residents to recognize ways and opportunities that if you're interested in this altogether, they're looking for you and anyone that would be wanting to come on board.
All good. Thank you very much. And listen, folks, you've talked a lot about a lot of great things and sad things that have happened in our community the last couple of weeks. So I think I sat back and listened and really enjoyed the presentations. I'm looking at the time, and I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Rice and seconded by Deputy Mayor Kyle.